Coffee time. Peace. Coffee time. I like this quick, dissolvable mushroom coffee. Yeah. So, I'm going to talk to y'all about something. Some things in the world are inevitable. Yeah, this the mushroom coffee. This the wrong one. That's cayenne. I got my robotic arm helping me film this right now. Peace to my good brother, Danique. This coffee is called Supermind. Quick, dissolvable. I take this before I go work out, and it stimulates my focus the rest of the day. All right, so the title is definitely not clickbait. So I want people to understand what's going on in the world. This coffee is amazing. I put a little cinnamon in it. You say NAACP. Yeah, NAACP is on the list as well of the boule organizations that need to disappear. And the thing about it, 2025 is going to be a very high energized conflict year. You have to understand, why does it have to be a conflict year? Because some things have to be destroyed in order for it to become better. You know what I'm saying? Some things have to be destroyed before it becomes better. And the reality of it is, these things have to happen, and we actually going to benefit from them. We're going to benefit from them. Now, in the short term, so let me give my breakdown. Let me give you some of my thoughts. Let me reel this in. So, you see a lot of the things that's happening right now in the culture, but larger than the culture in the world. Right, you see the conflict between, and I would love for everybody to have go see that Gladiator movie, because the Gladiator movie foretells a lot of different things, and this can really get deep depending on how you look at it, and what purpose are you staring at this for, right? Because I'm deep on the observation. I want to see what's happening in the future and what's to come. So I'm definitely going to do an actual breakdown on my YouTube channel. But for right now, I'm just going to have this conversation with y'all over some of this Superman coffee. It is sold out right now, but we about to have a restock. So I'm going to go ahead and tell them to put it on pre-order, right? So that they can get some. So that movie is very important and had to come out before 2025 rolled in. We're going into the American Cosmism era, and I'll explain all of that at another time. But this is an era of America is working to push innovation, right? To push technology, to push what they consider to be a second phase of the American dream. But a new American dream, not the same one, because America was built on ideologies from the 1700s, written by constitutional writers that did that for a world that no longer exists. Just DM me the word Supermind. I'll make sure next time I have a mini chat link, but I sent the link to everybody yesterday. So the Constitution was written for a world that no longer exists, right? And therefore, it's been hard for America to keep up with, let's say, a China or an India. India was a civilization at first that became a country, right? America is a very multinational corporation, right? Where there's multinational groups that exist inside of it. And a lot of the old frameworks of the Constitution doesn't allow it to thrive in a new world whatsoever. So there's some things that have to be broken. right? Some things that have to be gutted. And they have to figure out a way to circumnavigate the Constitution in order for America to have its so-called progress, right? Where the robots and the AI and the blockchain can get added into the infrastructure of America. Now, why is all that important? Well, in this lawsuit talks about AI, artificial inflation, how things became artificially inflated, given bots, utilizing AI, coupling conversations with UMG, right? Most powerful music arm in the world, and that with Spotify, who changed the game for artists, really messed up the music industry, made it consumer friendly, but not artist friendly whatsoever. They decide how much a dollar really costs, quite literally. Now, I think that the timing of this lawsuit, depending on how you take it, I think you got to take yourself out of the fan, right? And out of the emotions of it. And you have to just look at it for what it could do. And what it could do is it could bring the house down. You have one of the biggest artists in the world, right? Who is signed to a label just 3 years ago. And they put up a $400 million deal. And he's now suing them. And if this actually goes to court, because this is a pre-lawsuit, right? If this actually goes to court, then so many things can be exposed. And during that exposure, it makes a lot of other whistleblowers inside of the industry become more comfortable with speaking on those practices. These practices should have been exposed because the ability for the music giant and the distributor, the person you signed to and the people that distribute it, to have back-end relationships and have equity essentially within each other should be illegal, right? And this has destroyed hip-hop and it only made an industry. So hip-hop has been fighting the industry for a very long time, right? Why? Because independent artists cannot grow unless they sign their soul over to these major labels and they have direct relationship with distribution. Now, Drake might be somebody who's saying, well, the machine is not working for me at the moment, so F the machine. That seems to be a case. Either way, what the larger story in this, in a larger picture of this is that if this continues to be something that gets drawn out and the industry makes this the conversation, instead of exposing rappers, we're going to start having conversations about exposing the industry, exposing the executives, exposing the record labels, right? Exposing the monopolies, which is a much better conversation than trying to bring down hip hop artists. Oh, that's good stuff right there. Now, I'm going to tell you, if I want to sweeten it up a little bit, I add a little bit of that Supermine chocolate. I've been working on this for like since the beginning of the year. We premiered some of these at InvestFest and they sold out. But this Supermine chocolate, oh my God. See, it's different. We ain't got no tea for y'all. When you know, some people, they get on here, they got tea for y'all. I mean, they want to gossip. I got coffee for you. I'm trying to get you to think. I'm trying to get you to think. You feel me? That's what we are. This is that good stuff too. So, beyond the music industry, right? We're going to see, let me just drop this in the coffee. Like, you know that cocoa is actually good for you. Good for your heart and all of that. That cacao. With that Lion's Made. That dark chocolate though. I'm about to hit the gym after this. So, we're going to see next year high conflicts rise, right? This is a year of Cosmism. We're going to see high solar winds and high solar energy in the cosmos. Now, as a high-level observer, you got to pay attention to everything, right? And how does this affect us? Because historically, during years where the sun has its maximum peak, there's also a rise in conflicts, but there's also a rise in innovation, technological development, right? And you can do your research like I've done mine. I've correlated all of the years that it happened because these are 11-year cycles. And so during this era, man is trying to reach for more power than he's ever had before. He's working on compression technology and consolidation of power. But by the breaking of these things, there's going to be the opportunity for certain development and certain innovation to finally happen. So you got to sometimes just sit back and enjoy the show, right? As fans, you know, we love to have our opinions about things. Who's right? Who's wrong? Whatever it may be. For me, I want to see the party die, right? Because when the party dies, the revolution starts. So Kendrick Lamar and Drake are pieces in a larger game, a much larger game than themselves, right? What Kendrick is doing is very interesting as a warrior. But the way God is using them is even more powerful, because both of the moves that they're making can be used for the longer term, right, in a beautiful way. Because a lot of things that we've been asking for can now happen. And I think that my brother just sent me a list. He sent me a list of how all of the presidents, senators, congressmen, owners of social media companies, owners of basketball teams, owners of all these things are all either 80 to 90% or 99% white. Why does that matter? See, black people, I've been trying to figure out, like, how are we going to win, right? How are we going to win? How are we going to have us some power? The system, the Goliath, has become so strong. Doesn't it seem that way? They become so strong. But you have to remain a constant faith within yourself and within God and within your God body. And you have to be diligent and vigilant when the time comes to strike. And you have to know when to strike and how to strike. The world is actually set up in a perfect way right now for a large group of people to build their own country, if you will, right? And this country, I'm not talking about just by the basis of a landmass. This country starts as a digital country. Those people who adhere and agree to the same mission, the same values, the same purpose. And then that can be turned into something physical as those people collectively come together and buy assets, right? And these type of power shifts of what we're going to see as the future. Now, where do we see examples of that? We see examples of that in companies. Companies such as Google, such as Meta, companies such as Tesla, right? Where they have shareholders and stock owners, right? These companies have become $1 trillion companies or Walmart, where everybody who works for them is a citizen. They have it globally. They have physical property, McDonald's, right? They are franchises. But then you have something like, let me get this person out of here. They say I'm talking rubbish, but they gonna sit here and listen to some rubbish. Let's get you on out of here. But then you have countries, or you have things such as the cloud. Now that's where we all exist in connection with each other. We stare at screens. We utilize the cloud to store information. A lot of people can spend up to 70 to 80% of their time just on the cloud. And when you compare that to take it back 10, 20 years, we spent 0 time on the internet, 0 time on the screen, right? What this do create this interconnected web. Well, where does this web exist? This web doesn't exist in a physical world, right? This web exists in a digital world, but it's a space that connects us all. It's like saying we don't go to physical church or sometimes a physical mosque, but we can hear a word from somewhere and that connects us. But we're not connected in space, but we connected in time. Now, what does this mean? we start talking about AI, we start talking about crypto, right? Because AI plus crypto is going to be utilized as one of the best, AI plus crypto is going to be utilized as one of the best investments and infrastructure plays that's going to happen, because we had AI rise, then we had crypto rise and blockchain rise, all at separate different times. And this is going to be the year where they all happen to come together at once. And you see this technology merge all at once, which is key to pay attention to. This is where you're going to see investments in the crypto space where people become successful. But now we exist in a time where we can create our own currency. And I think that we put little time and think about how powerful that is. We can create our own currency with our own worlds, right? To where we decide to say we're going to utilize that in here. No, we ain't got freedom of speech in here. That's the Constitution. He talking about why kicking people out for freedom of speech. Ain't no freedom of speech. Y'all think about the Constitution. Ain't no freedom of speech. My man said freedom of speech. You think what you think this is? It's all about freedom of speech. This man decided his First Amendments. No, I don't work like that, brother. But we got every tool to create our own government systems. And that could not be stated at any other point in time. Quite literally. Right? And, not only that is we have blockchain, we have AI, they have quantum computers coming, right? We have dial systems. You feel me? We got all of these different things. So when you add those together, you know what you seem silly and foolish complaining about things outside. And what they really look at is being like, wait a minute, how the hell is black people complaining about shit when they got the same 24 hours, the same access to tech? So again, back to the music conversation. Sometimes we look at low-hanging fruit. When I look at it, I always like to zoom out. If this lawsuit takes place and the court of public opinion gets a hold of it, then this exposes the industry, which ultimately is good for artists. Beyond this beef. So I would love to see it to where it's just not exposing rappers, but the actual executives and the actual institutions got to get involved and they get exposed, and that's when it crumbles. Because you can't free the people until you burn down the plantations. So you want to see these things happen. And yeah, that may be the end of, the court of public opinion in the streets. My string up Drake for this. But I think it's a worthy sacrifice in the larger group of things. You know what I'm saying? In the larger group of things. And what you got to understand is we talking about large amounts of money. See, when the machine works for you, you don't mind the machine. But when the machine works against you, then that's when you want to fight the machine. But the movement has always been fight the powers that be. I think that if your power comes from having Lucian Grange behind you and having a huge entity behind you and a huge machine behind you, that's not true power in the first place. Yeah, he definitely got to pull up them receipts. So we gonna see, because there's no way that the biggest artist in the world doesn't have the same bot machine behind him. And other artists don't have the same bot machine. And what you will see is that sort of like the Wizard of Oz, right? When you pull behind the curtains and you see this little man there, but he was able to project such a big voice, you're going to see that with a lot of different artists, right? A lot of these artists today that have these huge machines behind them, and you see them everywhere. They have all these festivals, you hear them where. Why? It's not because they're the most talented in the world whatsoever. So when people have changed and moved the goalposts to say, well, they got motion, they getting money, but they never say they're talented. And the art should be about the skill. It should be about the talent, not whether somebody is getting money. So therefore, the industry died a long time ago when it stopped being about the art. It started being about who can sell a product and who becomes a product to be sold. It's that good stuff. Man, this coffee hitting. I just wake up, I get my coffee. That's all I have to think. You know what I'm saying? That's all I need. Oh, excuse me. But I only have a little more time before we get to it. So we're going to see more of this happen. I want to see more of not the party die, but the industry die. So we now have to include those who fund the party, right? I think that, taking down Diddy, people looked at that as it was going to have some ripple effect in the world. But it couldn't, because Diddy wasn't the puppet master. You know what I'm saying? Like, people really celebrated the hell out of the taking down of Diddy, but Diddy didn't have the power. Diddy didn't fund his own parties. He didn't fund none of those different things. So when we as a people, oftentimes, we look at which one of ours is doing wrong, right? We don't look at the machine itself. We don't look at getting to the root of it so that these things can be destroyed. And that's being radical. See, we lost radicalism. Radical means to get to the root. When we lost our radical tradition, we stopped caring about the root. We just look at each other to attack. Nah. But we're going to get to more conflict. There's a lot of things that we got to get rid of. There's a lot of things that if 2025 is going to be the year, right, really of the future, where you see the future really come into. We have just been introduced to a lot of futurist technologies. You feel me? Shout out to my brother Pop. We've been introduced to it, but we haven't been able to step into the future. Now, when you think about stepping into the future, you're going to realize that some things shouldn't even exist in the future. Some things should be so outdated. Like, we still got the NAACP. How is that an organization that still thrives in 2025? That makes no real progress. That is an organization of classism and boulesism. Straight up. A lot of these organizations are straight. You got to remember that if you go back into the history of Black America, because Black America has a separate timeline thread in history. And at some point in time, we start to merge those histories as if they one and they're different, right? In the history of Black America, there was always a boulesism, right? And those people that were of the upper class, sometimes they came from freed slaves that had early freed slaves, and they had money, and they seen themselves as different. They were mulatto, right? So they seen themselves completely different. And only time that they did decide to come in and mingle with the other Negroes is when they had an issue or a problem. So therefore, they was like, wait a minute, this is a us problem, because they still treat us like we black. So then they would rally the foot soldiers, the Negroes in the streets. But the other people was like, well, y'all treating us the same way. Y'all treat us like we ain't no good. Because you didn't realize the classism that exists in Black America. And Black Americans don't, of course, the boule has more power to control the media and things of that nature. And the narratives, who gets awarded, who can come in, who can't come in, right? Who gets funded, who doesn't get funded, who gets seen, who doesn't get seen, right? Because they exist in between the whites and the blacks. The boule is right there. They would grab a boule and give him the money and say, distribute it. We want to be philanthropic. But the boule is not going to say, oh, I'm going to give it to somebody radical. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to give it to their homeboys who are the same class, of the same mind and the same spirit. So that's when you have these organizations that exist that should not exist. Not in today's time. And we haven't looked at going against this classism that exists. See, they trick us as well by only looking at the white man. Right? They trick us as well by looking outside, because they want to divide and conquer. Because they never want us to look at them. Look at the church. The black church has been a part of that classism, that bouleism. How many churches exist in America? When did these conversations stop happening? When we was having conversations about some of the issues that was inside our own community. And I'm talking about not influencers that's talking. I'm talking about people who actually have resources and funds and power. See, just how white America is talking about cleaning up their own. They saying that these programs are too inefficient, that they can't continue to move forward. They can't have growth. We can't push technological advancement and innovation. They can't make progress, and they can't compete with the rest of the world unless some of these things are destroyed that come from the old guard and the old world. Warren Buffett, he swore up and down that blockchain technology essentially has no value. Now he's about to die. His money is about to pass away. He represents an old guard of the old money system and an old way of thinking. Now you have new money oligarchs shimmying up the ranks without actually being politicians whatsoever, showcasing their power boldly on display. Elon Musk is the most bold display of oligarch power ever to exist. He's right there in the president's ear running government programs while talking about buying MSNBC to control the news. They want to become emperors. Now, how can you compete against that with the same old situations? You telling me we gonna wait for something to happen and wait for the activists and the NAACP and the black church to come together when they're properly funded, but they don't do anything of any sizable thing that matters? This is why when I said I need to make my own Afrotech, no disrespect to Afrotech, but they headhunters for the corporates. We don't just need a little inspiration. We don't just need to share stories from the rich. We need stuff like building real DAOs, learning to put together our own currencies, actually utilizing decentralized finance to create radical systems of change. But that's just for the money. That's just a money thing. You say, why we ain't mad at Farrakhan? Ain't nothing to be mad at. Farrakhan is one of the most persecuted blackballed black men in the world. You should be mad at those who go against him. You should be mad at those who don't exalt him. You should be mad at those who are afraid to speak his name. That shows you who sold you out. That shows you who they work for. Mad at Farrakhan. I love Farrakhan. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Don't play with Minister Farrakhan like that, man. He one of the strongest men ever to exist. And behind the scenes, he been keeping these things together. And go look at all those black families they're creating in the Nation of Islam. Tell me how you mad at that when the rest of black America is playing Pop the Balloon. Clown shows. Come on, man. Stop playing with it. Man, this Superman coffee here now. Oh, so I'm excited to see how the world changes, but I'm learning some things right now that when I go on tour, I want to bring the real ones together. I'm at this point, I don't even care how many people come out. It's about the quality of people who come out. Because I only want the real believers that we can create our own and do for self. You feel me? DM me the word Supermind. I'll get you a link. I got to make sure the team put that up there. The tour starts February 8th. It's going to start in Brooklyn. It's going to be very limited tickets. All right, so last but not least, stick to your convictions. I'm speaking to my infinite wealth strategists. When you pick up a strategy in this game right here, right, you want to stick to your convictions. And I don't see enough people sticking to their convictions. And what I mean by that is we talk about artificial intelligence, and I've had an issue with this sometimes in the past where I would have a thesis. The thesis would be 100% right. And I didn't always invest in that thesis, right? I didn't always put all money in. Well, what happened is the market will go up and down. And sometimes I'll be like, damn, was I right? Was I wrong? And then I realized is that you have to understand what type of thinker you are. And I realized I'm a thinker that zooms out. So when you speak about things, people look for them to happen tomorrow. And you're like, and then those people, the next day, they like, it didn't happen, Keys. And then a week later, it didn't happen. A month later, it didn't happen. Now the crowd is like, it's not happening. And then the noise becomes so loud, you start to be like, damn, was I right? Then a year later, when everybody forgets you even said it, it happens. So that's when we then come and say, wait a minute. I'm a thinker that zooms out. So that zooming out sometimes is 1 year to 3 years, sometimes 5 years. So you have to learn in this time to stick to your convictions and dead the noise. Stick to your convictions, dead the noise. Because when you do that, the return is disproportionate. The return is immaculate. The return is amazing. Stick to your convictions. Be willing to be malleable to receive new information, but stick to your convictions. I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Make sure y'all go get y'all some workout in. If you want to join Infinite Wealth Strategies, we have our pre-Black Friday sale where we teach you all our strategies when it comes to crypto, when it comes to AI, right? When it comes to self-development and mental growth, blockchain. You want to get caught up. You want to know what coins we invested in and things of that nature so that you can take advantage of it for 2025. Make sure you DM me the word wealth so we can get you a link. The full course, you'll be saving over $600 through the Black Friday and getting it at $444. So make sure you lock in. We even have payment plans available on that $444 for those who want to get up today. So comment the word wealth and I'll see you all on the inside. Peace to the family. I got to go get rid of these sniffles real quick, man. I think I ate too many snacks yesterday.